Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I am Anarata Bashalieva, along with co-host Dr. Victor Fett, Dr. Katerina Shrey, and our program producer, Professor Larry Shrey. We host a weekly discussion panel on Russia's war on Ukraine with guests from Ukraine, military experts, medical personnel, academics, artists, literary figures, and relief workers. Our panel is recorded and circulated nationally and internationally. We appreciate your comments and feedback. Special thanks to Marshall University Libraries and MUIT for making this weekly event possible. If you're on Teams, please feel free to use the chat to post any questions for our guests. And quick greetings to our viewers in Ukraine from Professor Katerina Shrey.
Вітаємо наших слухачів в Україні з глибоким поклоном. Ми далі свідки вашого страшного терпіння і також вашої великої сили. Дякую вам за вашу участь в нашій тижневій програмі.
Thank you. Today's guest will be introduced by Professor Victor. The rest of us, please turn off your cameras. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anara. I am honored to welcome to Ukraine discussion panel today Miguel Dams from Portugal. He will talk about volunteer work in support of Ukraine. He is consultant, humanitarian activist, specialist in international regional relations. Since February 2022, together with some Ukrainian expats, Mr. Dams joined the mission of planning, organizing, and delivering humanitarian aid from Portugal to Ukraine. He will tell us about their work. His motto is helping or not helping is not a choice. That's our privilege as free people, and we have to commit to it. Please, Miguel, the microphone is yours. We're honored to welcome you.
Thank you very much, Victor. Вітаю Україну, вітаю українців. Добрий день to everybody, and many more words in Ukrainian I cannot say. I'm still learning. It's an honor and a pleasure, and I thank you for the invitation. So I was invited to speak a little bit about our activity here from Portugal, the country that is furthest away from Ukraine in Europe, from the other side of Europe. We are a small country that has a history which we are very proud of, especially what concerns democracy and the fight for freedom. So I did pile some pictures and some small videos, and I will explain this whole operation that was built due to this joint feeling of Portuguese civil society. So it all started with the second invasion, actually, on the 24th of February. I'm going to share the screen. Just 1 second, please. And if you can see it, yes. Okay, this is one of the images that touches me more. It's on the dashboard, the reflection of our flag, which we are very proud, entering Ukraine. So on the 24th of February, we started to connect each other and thinking of what we could do to help Ukrainian people and especially the refugees that were leaving the country, and we saw it on the news. It was very touching. So we met this lady, Natalia, which you see on the video. She has an ONG here in Porto. She's Ukrainian. She's since 2004 in Portugal, active helping immigrants from the east of Europe. And it was instantaneous connected. We felt the same need to help, and she was actually the major engine to start the whole operation of humanitarian aid from Portugal to Ukraine. So the first weeks, it was gathering all kinds of merchandise and donations, and as you can see, the warehouse in Gondomar, is a city near Porto, was from the city hall. They gave the availability for us to do all the work there. and her team gathered 5 full trucks in the first month with humanitarian aid. So we had a huge group of volunteers that were working nonstop every day, since morning to evening. People and staff from the city hall, and also a lot of volunteers, many young people came to help to separate all the donations. As you can imagine, many things came from private people that gathered in the box, from medication to clothes. So it had to be all separated and prepared for delivery, for a logic delivery in Ukraine. On the 13th of March, we started with the first mission of picking up in Poland refugees that the majority had family members already in Portugal. So we had a referred list with people that wanted their family members to be brought to Portugal as refugees. And this group, which started immediately doing this joint mission, was composed by 2 medics, 2 doctors that came aboard on the bus, social worker, a psychologist, a veterinarian, because we saw also on TV a lot of pets being brought, and we had the need to cover those needs and to help people with their pets. We had a translator, and the rest of the group were poly volunteers for everything that was needed. So this was a very rewarding, personally, a very rewarding moment. When we left Porto, direction to Warsaw in Poland. And when we arrived there, we understood the impact that the war had. It was the first impact which we felt almost not being psychologically prepared for such a tough moment for the refugees. So we had everything organized in front of the train station in Warsaw. Did the check-in, documentation. At that time, we had to do also the COVID testings. It was still a problem that we had to overcome, but everything went fine, and we started coming back with a group of 54 refugees in the bus trip of 3,400 kilometers back to Portugal. As soon as they arrived, the family members picked them up, of course, and also the host families that this group gathered. The host families came to this special center that was created by the City Hall of Gaia and Porto, where also the border officials came to do the legalization of documentation. And everything went very smooth, although it was a very touching moment for everybody. We came psychologically devastated with what we saw and what we heard and the stories we heard. This picture is a special picture for me personally, because when we arrived, I took a group of volunteers. They wanted to see the beach and the ocean, and the Atlantic Ocean where we are at. And this was touching because it's the feeling where the road ends. You cannot run further away. It was the limit, like the end of the planet. And the sensation was absolutely amazing for them and for us that were feeling this. So of course, all this involvement also was very publicly disclosed on TV, made this operation grow. We had many more donations and volunteers coming every day, and in regular terms, 5 more trucks left to Ukraine to deliver the needs of humanitarian needs that we got the lists of. So in the meantime, this was all created by civil society with the association, the ONG of Natalia, the association Amizade. We got contacts, of course, through Facebook and WhatsApp, and it's a small country, everybody knows each other. So it was very quickly, we got contacts from different cities in Portugal that gathered a lot of donations and suddenly had the warehouses full and didn't know what to do with them, where to deliver them. There was also some news coming that some donations were being sold in Poland and were being snatched at the border or were not delivered to the right people. So city halls tried to figure out who is working in a transparent way, and they contacted us. So we started to work together with these city halls that go from north to south of the country. And this is, for example, one of the city halls that came to deliver the donations they had. These 6 trucks, for example, we took also from the center of the country, from Castelo Branco, and we delivered all the merchandise in Ukraine. This is, for example, the Uzhhorod University in Ukraine, where we stashed all the merchandise, and then they distributed through charity organizations and ONGs in Ukraine to the civil society that was in need. It was a non-stop work, more and more questions and demands. We had a second refugee pickup in Poland, which was almost at the same time. And this was organized by an added group of people that came, and in coordinates with the city of Cascais. City of Cascais is 350 kilometers away from Porto, but through connections and contacts, which I will speak later, they had prepared there the social shop, the welcoming hall, a place for children, also a supermarket, and they created really the best conditions possible for the refugees for the first couple of months, for them to stay in Cascais, in this center, and to be relocated to either to families, to private families, or to find jobs and to rent their own places. So everything was very well prepared by the City Hall of Cascais. Actually, the first 6 months, it was a non-stop work. The phone never stopped, emails, messages, and from everywhere. Here we see a delivery of special medication to Kharkiv, to a hospital, which was in need of very special medication. And we got also all the videos and pictures of deliveries of our partners that we met in the meantime in Ukraine. So coming back to Portugal, we were invited to do some public talks about the humanitarian aid and the challenges, which are naturally, we are not professional, or we were not professional in this area, so everything was unexpected, everything was new. Many people were involved, and the volunteers were very motivated to help because we saw actually where our aid went to. It's not like when you do a normal annual donation for some institution and you don't know where it goes to or for what it's going to be directed. Here we knew exactly where things were going. And this came also to bring us the knowledge that we were not prepared. We were not prepared, especially for the dramatic feeling that we got, not being, how shall I say, not being prepared emotionally for all this humongous work. In the meantime, with Cascais, we kept on doing the collecting for Bucha. There was a special demand for Bucha, from Bucha to the city of Cascais. And we started loading to help the city of Cascais deliver in Bucha for trucks, which I will speak in a couple of minutes. So in April, the need of help of humanitarian aid, volunteers, was something that was very obvious. Many people went once, came back and said, I will not do it anymore. They were emotionally, completely distressed. And myself, I consider myself a strong guy, and I can cope with many things. Just seeing a mother trying to deliver me the 11-year-old son, because she had 2 children and one of them was recruited to the city protection in military. She didn't want to leave him alone. So she asked me without knowing me to take her other child. And this was, to be honest, I was not prepared for it. It's not something that you learn in school to be prepared of, or not even in life. So it's very, very touching. And so I decided to challenge a hospital here in the north of Portugal, in Penafiel, it's called the city. And the psychology center of this hospital accepted the challenge and did create this intervention model of for volunteers of humanitarian aid missions. This was a very important step because we needed to know and to let others know how the challenge of being a volunteer can be very rewarding, and these are some tokens for the volunteers, and but also to help people get good and be in conditions to help, because we need help too every day. And this was so important for our society that it was integrated into the national health system. It's still working, and there are other ONGs that are using this program to help their volunteers. And we noticed that volunteers are more effective and better protected against the emotional distress that this creates. So I think the video is very quick, but I will try to explain everything. These 2 trucks that we prepared in 1 week to go to Bucha, this was a record donation mission. In 1 week we gathered here in Porto. It's also a poor country, so it was very, very quick for these 2 trucks go with medication, with food, with baby food, with diapers, with everything that you can imagine that was asked for, and also some things that touched us, just the body bags were asked for. So we also managed to get many of the items that were in need in the region of Bucha. So altogether, the city of Cascais sent about 100 tons in 4 trucks, in 4 different trucks to Bucha. So this lady, which we see, is Ana Lopes. She's a dentist, and she also has written a children's book about the Ukrainian war. And she was the key person in Cascais to do the contacts through networking, through social media, and through her contacts. She funded also some of the merchandise that went, and she went along also within 2 missions. So a person that we are also grateful for helping. Actually, this is a teamwork, but a very spontaneous team. Here we see the trucks being loaded. It was the first time actually, and the only time I met the ambassador of Ukraine. It was a very short meeting. We never looked to establish too tight relationships with institutions because of the fear that we have that bureaucracy will slow things down. So we decided to keep it very, very volunteer work and simple, informal. And so we managed to do all this work together. So with Associação Amizade, we kept on doing our mission to spread the news about humanitarian aid and the humanitarian needs. So in April and May, in June, we did different kinds of events here in Porto. The Vishivanka Day. We had some celebrations with, here we see some pictures, small fairs with music in parks and in the city park. Also with the aim to bring both people, both cultures a little bit closer so that Portuguese could meet also the Ukrainian culture, which suddenly everybody was very interested in seeing. We also organized some joint masses between the Ukrainian Orthodox and the Catholic Church here in Porto, which was very touching, I can say. Even people that don't go to church and are not churchgoers went there, and it was very touching to feel the union of humans. There are no difference between Ukrainians, Portuguese, and this is something that we still feel we are very similar. We are very similar. So from north to south with different ONGs of also Ukrainians in Portugal. In Lisbon, for example, we did many joint festivities, and here once again, Natalia, the engine of the motivation of the volunteers, is also always very, very active, although it's not easy for her as Ukrainian in Portugal doing her job. But I think she does it very well, and I pay my homage to her. I feel motivated by her and by your people all together, the way that you fight for freedom. And this is something that we cannot deny. It's an inspiration. So throughout July, we did some fairs. In September also, and joined mass, and gathered also some funds to keep on doing humanitarian aid missions. And we feel that people are more acquainted with your culture. Your food is delicious. And this is something that will be for always in our hearts. So in November, we thought how to keep on helping and what was needed. And we anticipated that the war would come into a different kind of war. So the weapon of mass destruction would be the climate, was our thought. Probably we would, if we would do something, we would try to freeze you. So we anticipated it and went to Poland for the first week of November to deliver some urgent clothes, especially warm clothes, for a new group of volunteers that also thought the same thing before the attacks on the energetic infrastructures in Ukraine. And I feared that the new wave would come. Also joining this mission, it was a shorter mission just to do an assessment, to be honest. We went there to see what was really going on, because news are not always accurate and not always very how do I say, on target. So this journalist is Irineu Teixeira, joined this mission. He was a CNN journalist here in Portugal, Portuguese CNN. And we made the assessment together and realized that probably there would not be a new wave of refugees, but we knew and we saw what was going to happen in the winter of last year. The cold was one of the worries, and the lack of energy. So we started preparing for the winter and bought through donations, of course, bought everything that we could. We stocked the stores all out, from generators to heaters and lamps, everything that we understood that would be needed in Ukraine. And it's a drop in the ocean, but it was very rewarding. So we sent in December 2 more trucks. And when we arrived there, the emotions were at the peak, because I felt for the first time, I go always with these missions, I felt for the first time the fear of being in the dark, in the cold, and it's very difficult. I cannot put it in words, so it's very difficult. And actually at this moment, the humanitarian aid reached its low point. I thought so. Now it's even lower, but the low point of donations. So every week that passes, it's more difficult to get donations. It's more difficult to get people. And the only way to do it is by asking the press to show it on TV, to not let it fall into forgetfulness. And here we are always insisting and pressuring to show what is really going on, because we understand that the main topic and the most important topic is the weapons and the weapon delivery and the money, and that is needed to keep the country going. But there are many people that need support, and this is our aim to keep on doing what we decided to do since the beginning. For a country that lives in the summer almost all year long, in Portugal, we don't, although it rains also, but we don't feel that need. But we have to understand and show that you are an inspiration. You are amazing people, and you deserve that we keep on supporting you as a civil society without any sides, A, B, good Ukrainian, bad Ukrainian. That's not the question. I saw that your country is filled with different ethnicities, different minorities, and you are fighting for the same things that we cherish so much: freedom of speech, freedom of the country, and independence. We have the oldest borders, so we are very proud of them. I cannot imagine if somebody would invade us. I mean, we would also give our lives to defend the future of our country. So in this sense, it touches, and all the difficulties that come make us so angry as if it would be our own country. This is an example. I stopped the image. It's the border controls and customs from Europe to Ukraine, especially in Hungary and Slovakia. In Poland too, but due to the amount, but it's the inefficiency, the bureaucratic inefficiency since the beginning of the war. It could have been bettered, it could have been simplified. It was on paper, but in reality, you still see lines of trucks, kilometers, endless trucks waiting to enter Ukraine. Not all, of course, not all with humanitarian aid, but this is something that has to be done. And I think that it is also part of humanitarian aid to try to pressure politically our parties, our countries to make it better, because every time we make an assessment of needs in Ukraine, they are across the border and waiting just to get in. And this is something that is unacceptable. So we keep on fighting. There are a lot of reasons. So in the meantime, I show you here, this is a journalist, a Portuguese journalist called José Milhazes. He's very well known in Portugal. He's a superstar on TV. He's actually from Povo, here from the north of Portugal. When he was young, I'm speaking for him, not for him, but I know his story. Just a little introduction. He thought that communism was paradise, so he decided to go to Russia to study. And very quickly he realized that it is not paradise. So he's the biggest specialist. He was a journalist and a correspondent in Russia. He came back to Portugal, and he's the biggest activist for Ukraine, and trying to tell the truth about what is behind the whole past, Soviet past, the communist past, which is now different. But and every day he's on television explaining the reality, and he does it in a very funny way. He's also a good partner spreading the reality, which is important and which still allows us to get some support to continue helping. Like in Ukraine, you have also some special people, very special people, like Professor Fedir Shandor. He's an Uzhgorod teacher. You may know him as the teacher of the trenches, which we have contact and actually now a good friendship. He sent us a signed flag from his battalion for a humanitarian solidarity dinner that we organized here in Porto. So here he was signing the flag, so it wasn't national news, of course, because he was speaking about Portugal and thanking Portugal for the help. And I think that he didn't know the impact that it would have here, because every TV channel was showing this signing of the flag and for the event that we prepared. And I would like to show you the event. Here's the famous picture of him still giving classes in the trenches. So on the 24th of February, 1 year after the invasion, we did organize the fundraising dinner in Porto. It was a very nice moment, as you will see, and I would like to confirm if you have the sound. Just 1 second. So this was a very rewarding moment, of course, and very touching, which every day makes us think of what if it would stop now, but it doesn't. So we went to other events. We went to Lisbon, for example, Okianelzi with, you know this person probably, Vakarchuk. He's actually my new idol in music. I learned also about Ukrainian music. He's a great guy. He's also his own foundation. And we started cooperating. That's the main target. It's try to cooperate as much as we can, join forces. We met national politicians in Ukraine, local politicians. We made the assessment of what is going on, what is needed, and still every time the needs are different. Here's Andrei from Uzhgorod, in Ternopil also, the chaplain, and people related to the military, and our partners in Uzhgorod, for example. And I will tell a little bit about them, around also in Budapest, in Kyiv. So we went everywhere to see, to speak, and to know people personally, and to see the actual operation working, where it is going. For example, with the center of Mariupol also, and here you have a good friend. He's a very nice person. So here are two people that also made a big difference, Veronica Souza and Ingrid Konovalenko. Ingrid was an amazing help to organize a lot of things for the solidarity dinner and for the donation, auctions and so on, and all the communication and on the websites and on social media is done by Veronica. Veronica is a key person. It's just I cannot forget them. More than friends. Veronica is actually my girlfriend, so it's good. This is very rewarding to see how victims are also a little bit protected, better protected in Ukraine. And here is Andrei Buzarov, for example. He's an international journalist. He's an international relations specialist also. And Andrei is actually the key person with whom I have a special relationship. I admire Andrei very much. for all what he does. And I met through him a couple of the best people I met in life, Ukrainians, of course. And he's always, we speak almost every day. So our mission was also doing some interviews here in Portugal, doing some programs, and keep on until we reached the 23rd trucks, the truck now in June. Last June, we accumulated more than 500 tons of humanitarian aid, and we keep on doing the Shivanka Day until the 23rd truck crossed Europe, going direction Ukraine with a lot of medication on board. And this is a point where suddenly things started to get difficult, especially in Slovakia. A big surprise. The trucks, all the 23 trucks or 22 trucks passed without any problems, obeying the documentation that was required and everything that was indicated by the European Union. But suddenly Slovakia decided to change the rules, and it's not talked about it. It's not very much spread, the information. Things changed. We had to pay. We had to unload the merchandise. We stayed 6 days at the border, waiting to cross the border in a real fight with customs. Every day I had discussions with them because there was no reason to hold us. Until they found one small detail, that was we had no license to export medication, which is absolutely nonsense because it was humanitarian aid with a document from a hospital, from the laboratories, everything was okay. So we had to pay for a storage, we had to leave medication behind, and it was a hostage situation of medication. Of course, here it was a scandal in the news, and we had to activate all our contacts, and thankfully a Slovakian, Edward Burac, was very helpful, and he took, a couple of days after, he took the medication in his private car to Ukraine, and everything was settled. But this was the first alarm ringing that things are not quite as they appear to be. And this is something that worries me a lot, is that the European Union speaks a lot about we have to go through till the end, but then these things keep on happening. We can change it. And I hope through this, somebody will see it and think, well, maybe he's right, let's change it a little bit. At least we try. So the word at the border, there were 20 kilometers of a queue of trucks. They spread around and they understood that we were coming from Portugal. We had this problem. And this was a touching moment because the trucks communicated among themselves, and they kept us a spot in the front of the queue to cross the border. So everybody was honking when we passed. It was a very touching moment again. So this solidarity feeling from all over Europe, civil society still exists, and I'm grateful for that. So now the mission was complete. We delivered everything in Uzhgorod, came back in Porto, and we had a first volunteer fair. It was a very interesting situation with many associations from animal protection, from immigration, from every kind of ONGs got together. We were, of course, fundraising for Ukraine. And from this fair, there's the contacts remained. And for our 24th truck that we are preparing now, this week, to leave probably at the end of the month or beginning of November, some associations of this fair helped and joined the donations and to help us to make happen.
Oh, wow.
So this was, I forgot it was with sound. This was a moment that we assist every day. We see sports and life here in Portugal is normal, like it was before. We don't have war, but every time Ukraine plays with us, for me, suddenly it's like my second nation. It's really indescribable, not just for me. I'm on the video, but the other people feel the same thing, and I'm very proud to wear the Vishivanka. So yes, it's in everyday normal life we keep on speaking about Ukraine. Here we are back to work with some social programs that we are creating for immigration to Portugal, and with Natalia Mil again, and now what I was telling you about, the 24th truck is being prepared, and it's already full. We are just needing of some donations for the financial support of the expenses, because there are a lot of expenses involved in these missions. So on the 14th we had the Defender Day. It was actually on the 1st, but we celebrated on the 7th, so in between. And we had the last fundraising event with some live music and very touching speeches also from mothers that have children. Their sons are fighting and they are here. And here we are at the 24th. So trying to keep up with the average of 1 ton for each day of war. So in the meantime, what do we see? We spoke so much about this. What do we see of needs for Ukraine from Portugal, from our perspective? Keeping on sending food and medication, it's not quite enough. I think I saw myself with my own eyes the moon. Yes, I saw Ukraine, a part of it absolutely destroyed, and I know that the refugees from the east that are overcrowding the cities from the west. I have some examples, I have some numbers, but altogether there are over millions. So my question is always concerning the future, the near future, not the long term. What if the war would stop today? Okay, if the war would stop today, probably millions of refugees that are in Europe and in Western Ukraine would have the wish to go back to their land, especially on the east, on Donbass region, and so on, the center, and land that is absolutely destroyed. There is nothing left, industrial, economical, or not much, but probably nothing. And there are no conditions, the infrastructures are destroyed. So if the war would stop today, how long would we need to create the conditions for people to go back to their homes? And this is a very difficult question with an even more difficult answer. Nobody knows, but probably a long time. So in my opinion, the cities that are in the western part of the country will keep on being overcrowded, and humanitarian aid will end. It will end because people are tired, because people also have their own problems. People, I speak about countries like Portugal. Portuguese have also their own problems and difficulties. We have also crisis. We have also financial, not so much financial possibilities to keep on helping. And we have to look of ourselves too. So what would be the solution would be to create in the Western cities conditions to keep the overcrowded population with a future where they are independent. And This is about housings, jobs, education, and also in the macro solutions, the environmental questions, because we want to join you. The economical, the industrial, the cultural and political issues are very important. And in our consideration, we spoke a lot about it. The humanitarian aid would also fit into this because it's relieving pain and suffering in the future and this planning. So we are planning and organizing the contacts we have in Ukraine right now and in Portugal, and promoting here in Portugal the twinnings, the sister city twinnings between Portuguese cities and Ukrainian cities. And this is very simple because it's a protocol. There are European subventions for it, for the cities, not for us. And the possibility of a Ukrainian city to profit from the know-how of, for example, a Portuguese city that is also already passed some difficulties from the past, not because of the war, but because of the adaptation to environmental issues, for example. This know-how is worth gold for Ukraine. And this is a potential cooperation that will bring a lot of advantages for both communities, for the regional communities, because national politics is about macro decisions generally. And I am absolutely sure that the local communities have much more decision power to make things happen. And this is why we are promoting these meetings with cities here in Portugal and in Ukraine. And things are growing and things are getting there. It takes a lot of time, but the common future can be done, but only if we join together and not stay just by words and propaganda. It would be nice. So the biggest issue I see here is the bureaucracy, of course. It's an enemy to everybody. It takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, and I don't see the national powers, the national governments and embassies, for example, some yes, but not every embassy doing this work. It's not just doing a protocol. There's a lot that has to be done. There's doing the protocol between two cities and joining cooperation between universities, between sports infrastructures, between cultural entities, and this will make us stronger because we are then together aiming for the same common positive future. So actually, this is our mission. My sentence usually is doing nothing is also a choice. We prefer to choose to do something and at least trying. So this is summed up to 600 days in 22 minutes or so, or 25 minutes. I hope I could give some positive introduction to what we do.
Thank you so much, Miguel. This is amazing story, and your analysis is so touching and comprehensive. I'm sure that our viewers right now have some questions. We're on the other side of Atlantic, much farther from Ukraine. We face the same issues over these 600 days, but again, your experience is completely invaluable. Please, I open the microphone to our hosts and viewers. Raise your hand in chat or just join by voice. Open your camera and microphone, please. Larry.
Thank you, Miguel. I'm wondering about the 11-year-old boy that you were asked to take out of harm's way. Where is he now? How is he doing?
He is, I think he's very well. No, he kept with the family. I couldn't bring him, of course. It's a minor, but he was supported by the embassy, and then I don't know much more about it. We kept some contact, but he didn't come to us.
Okay, but he was taking care of it, sounds like, so that's good.
Yes. No, the public in Warsaw, they took care of it, and we couldn't. I mean, imagine the feeling that I cannot imagine the feeling that must be for a mother to look in the crowd for someone that inspired some confidence to give the son away. I cannot imagine.
Thank you.
Yeah, these stories are amazing. My parents went through World War II, and I had an aunt that I never knew was not my biological aunt. It was a very similar story. My grandmother was boarding a train with her 2 daughters, and a man whose wife had just died desperately handed her a girl. Which I can't imagine. I can't imagine that. And I can't imagine as a volunteer what you've witnessed, what you went through, what you experienced in the course of your amazing presentation. It was a whole range of emotions, everything from gratitude to pride to sorrow. The teacher of the trenches, what a powerful image. The ocean, the Atlantic Ocean. No, you couldn't go any further. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for your persistence for 24 shipments of help, but also all the human stuff that goes behind that. You, Natalia, Veronica, Ingrid, Andre, all of you are you're beyond heroic. I see in the comments that one of our regular viewers, Leslie Titus, is writing, it's really inspiring to see people from around the world joining to help Ukraine. And oh my gosh, that it is. So I do actually have a question, and I'm sorry for the long lead up. I'm just like that story, the 11-year-old that Larry asked about. I think we're all thinking about him and that moment for that parent. So my question is this: your team at the very beginning, you described a medic, a translator. Those make perfect sense. Everybody should have that, right? But you also point out social worker, psychologist, veterinarian. This is such detailed attention to the plight of the people you are serving. I'm just wondering, it's brilliant. How a lot of thought went into putting that team together. Could you talk a little bit about the process that resulted in such a comprehensive team that would meet all the needs of the people you are ministering to?
Oh, wow. It was very spontaneous. It was no individual decision. This was actually a group that we created in WhatsApp. I was added to the group. I didn't create it. We still are friends from school and from politics and from nightlife. So it's a small country, so we know each other. And we are on Facebook connected, and it was touching to see. I was at that time actually doing something for Red Cross. Trying to organize something for Red Cross, and I was called, hey, you want to join the group? Yeah, sure. I mean, wow. What are you asking for? So when I joined the group, already the idea was to bring these refugees, and it was a brainstorming. How are we going to do this? Because chartering a bus and going to Warsaw and coming back for a free ride is a travel agency. And we are not going to do something for a travel agency or a free travel. So this was I remember these talks. I don't remember who specially. It was a brainstorming. What are we going to do? Also, some people, there was a member of parliament, which is our friend, and he has a lot of experience also. I did myself also other activities in humanitarian aid before in other countries. And so our experience, it was based on experience actually, yes. And the doctors, for example, we knew that the majority of the refugees would be women and young women and elderly people. So one of the doctors is actually, I don't know, a women's doctor. I don't know how to say it.
Gynecologist, yeah.
Gynecologist, yes, that's it, gynecologist. And the veterinarian, he volunteered. He's also a personal friend. And it made total sense because the veterinarian sees the news and saw the news and saw people crossing the border with the pets and said, listen, I go. So actually he took He took Mr. Montenegro, I cherish him a lot. He took a whole equipment van ready to build a veterinarian hospital, first need hospital in Warsaw in the train station. So refugees were stepping out of the train. This was his idea, and we, of course, it was spontaneous. We agreed. Sometime we had to go to the hotel and he was missing, and we searched for him, and suddenly somebody calls, listen, I'm with Montenegro at the house of a lady in Warsaw that has a cat that needs to do surgery. And I says, come on, it's enough. Let's rest a little bit and do so. The feeling of wanting to help was astonishing, and he did actually a C-section and took out the small kitty, and he was very proud. Listen, when we came back, we arrived in Portugal with the bus and with the two vans in the back, and suddenly I was driving one van, he was driving the other van. We were support vans for the bus, and suddenly he turns around and turns back, and I said, where the hell is he going? So he went back because he saw two stray dogs, and we took them. So on the way, it was not even in Ukraine, it was here in Portugal already. So this feeling of being together and being united is something that we feel it in Portugal as very Portuguese. Maybe because we are a poor country and we need also some solidarity. So we know what is when you need something, and how grateful you can be if somebody helps.
You are
cannot turn
wonderful
it
people.
back.
You are wonderful, wonderful people. Thank you. I see that John Sinnott has a question.
John, hi.
Hey, brother. How are you? You were talking about the Trent professor. I think that he was nominated to be ambassador to Hungary now. Have you heard
Was
from him?
invited by the Lions. Yes.
Did he accept that? Are you still in contact?
Yes.
And how is that going to affect your next trip? Will you go through Hungary?
No, not at all. I cannot disclose where I'm going to due to security reasons. But no, we are going to Ukraine again, probably between the last week of this month and the first or second week of November. And when we are there, then we say we arrived. But when we say we arrived, we are already left. So
yes,
it's always a small delay due to many reasons. No, Fedir is a motivation for everybody that gets in touch with him. He does a wonderful job, and he was nominated, yes, due to his efforts with Hungarian volunteers, and he's close. You know, Uzhgorod is in Zakarpattia, is in the south, has a lot of Hungarian influence, and historically the connection is very, very close. So I think he's the best choice. I don't know, but I'm not the right person to answer that. But yes, he will be the new ambassador of Ukraine in Hungary, and I believe that he will do a wonderful job.
And then the one other thing is, I just spent a week in Lviv, so I saw what you were talking about in the Western cities, and it seems like Lviv is already starting to gear up for it. You know, there's a lot of new construction going on, and I know you're more attached with Uzhhorod, or you have more knowledge there. So, have you established partnerships yet, or you're still working on it?
Oh, we're working every day, every day, establishing new contacts. Listen, John, the investment projects that many people think. I spoke to many people related to city halls, for example, or even entrepreneurs in Portugal, and I told them this is a good opportunity for you to grow and to create new opportunities in Ukraine, to help Ukraine. And there are some people that get that and to understand, and there are others that say, no, when the war ends, we speak. Now it's not the time. And this is something, as a Portuguese, I tell you, as a Portuguese, it shocks me, because 500 years, in the 15th century, we went on small wooden casks to an ocean without seeing anything behind it or beyond it, and we went discovering the world. And courageous people and fearless. You know, let's look for something new and let's find a way to make life better. And now it seems that it's quite the opposite. We have a saying here in Portugal that sometimes you have to give a sausage to get the pig. And it's the other way around. You know, everybody wants everything 100% guaranteed, and there's no guarantee for 100% for anything in life, not even life. Well, death is 100%. But there are economic projects, there are social projects, there are security issues that can be resolved, there are innovation projects, and there's so much to do, especially when we see our standards in Europe concerning environmental issues. I remember a couple of years ago, I would never drink from a recycled glass or eat with a spoon that was recycled plastic, because the idea was it was used, it was dirty. And nowadays we don't think about anything else besides having recycled things. And in Ukraine, you are still in need of this know-how. And I believe it will be very quickly, because you are, not you, John, but Ukrainians are very, very intelligent, courageous, brave, and also very keen on wanting to innovate and make everything better. And so that's why I love Ukraine. I fell completely in love with Ukraine and the Ukrainian mentality.
Well, we are seeing a lot more recycled stuff. Like even the cafes here in Kyiv, they're already starting to do it. And I'll go because I'll see you and when you get here, hopefully, if you come to Kyiv. So I wanted to thank you for coming on, you know, and I look forward to seeing you. I'm going to have coffee with Andre in the next few days, so we'll be talking about some things as well. So,
well, we will meet, I promise.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much. It was John Sennett joining us from Kyiv. Yefim Somin, our regular guest from Boston. Please, Yefim.
Hi, muito obrigado for your presentation and for what you're doing. You know, I also learned a few songs by Vakarchuk, but I also know Grande La Villa Morena.
No, okay. I don't like that.
You don't? Yeah, okay.
No, it's very political.
I understand it's time specific, yes.
It's very politically the connotation.
Well,
is
it was a signal in '74. Yes. Okay.
I know.
Right. Yeah. So 6 years ago, I was looking a little bit. 6 years ago, I was looking at Matosinhos from Castelo do Queijo.
Yes,
and a couple of
I see it from my window.
Right. So my question, I apologize for this, is a little bit to the side of the presentation. Yeah, and the question is this: now we have two wars, you know, started by terrorists against democracies. And when I was in Porto back then, you know, I went to the synagogue and it looked like a fortress. And I asked them, you know, is Portugal so dangerous, you know, for Jews? And they said, no, Portugal is fine, but you never know who might come from elsewhere. So I guess the question is, what is the attitude in Portugal now that there are two wars? You know, what is the feeling, sort of the spirit? If you can just briefly say anything about that.
Okay, very briefly, to what concerns what I am doing. This is the humanitarian aid missions for Ukraine, and on social network, trying to keep people focused on what really matters. I do not involve in political discussions out of respect, because I have my personal opinion, but I'm not important. So what I understand and what happens is when I speak, for example, to someone to help donate for Ukraine, which is my aim, people tend to use it as an advantage to say no, because, oh, now we have another war and now we have to think. And usually these people never help anything anyway. So we are a very moderate country. Portugal is a very moderate country. We have a very open democracy where the freedom of speech is surpassed by logic and by understanding. We have still the Communist Party legal. We have the extreme right party legal. Both speak on TV, and then comes soccer or football, and then comes the news, and that's it. So people really don't take one side. And I know that there are many reasons for the Palestinian issue and for the Israeli issue. Portugal is a country that has a very good relationship, I think, with everybody in the world. So we are not a country that will say, oh, we are 100% this or 100% that. Not even in this war with Ukraine. We still have some people that advocate the propaganda of Putin, for example, and they speak open and freely on TV. It might be not understandable by the majority of people from abroad when you come here and you say, okay, you have a synagogue and you never know who is coming. We are so peaceful that I can almost assure you that nobody will come. But then we have Murphy's Law. When we exaggerate on something, then something may happen. Portugal has not a history of letting terrorism work here. So it's all I can say.
Okay.
The feeling is mixed. The feeling is really mixed, very democratic, in a very democratic way. Some people tend to say Israel 100%. Some people say Palestine 100%. I mean, I worry about the suffering of human beings. It doesn't matter from A to Z where they are from. If I can help, I will, if I'm available to it. And for me, it's Ukraine, and nothing else matters, to be honest.
Obrigado.
Obrigado. Arana, I think, has the hand up.
Thank you. Yes, Anara, please.
Thank you very much for your very valuable insights. And we are very pleased to have someone from Europe right now and see the grassroots level cooperation. Some say Europe surpasses America in support for Ukraine. And I have a couple questions. How can the European Union help Ukraine, especially in the long and midterm future? And secondly, how should Russo-Ukrainian war end, according to your vision? Thank you.
Oh, wow. What can the European Union do? The European Union, as an organization, a general organization, is so complex that it's very difficult to understand what they are able to do. One thing Mrs. von der Leyen says what she says, and I agree. We have to stand by Ukraine until it's no longer needed, but it will be needed. The bureaucracy is the biggest issue in Europe, within Europe. So what can Europe do to Ukraine? Just keep on helping and keep on putting action into the words that people say they do. Especially, for example, the border issue. The border issue is something I met with the European Parliament, I don't know how you say, commission at the border in Slovakia in April of last year. And I made a report, a detailed report, what was wrong. And one of the issues is the language, is one of the barriers. As soon as we cross to Poland, Slovakia, Hungary, very few people speak English. So it's difficult to communicate. And when you get nearer to the border, it's either the own language, the Slavic language, or Polish, or Slovakian, or whatever, and Russian. So not even Ukrainian, but it doesn't matter. I mean, it's Russian. If you fill out the form at the border, it's all in Slovakian or Russian. A Spanish, a German, an Italian, a Portuguese driver does not understand. Then nobody speaks the language. And this, for example, would be a small help. But if we don't help with small things, I cannot imagine with big things. It's not just giving money and waving a flag. I see many cities, for example, my hometown, Porto, in the humanitarian sense, did nothing, almost nothing, just lighting up buildings, with the Ukrainian flag, blue and yellow, and then on the social media, we are very solidarity with the Ukrainian people. That does not help. That does nothing. It's just showing off and for political gain, personal political gain. I mean, the same thing happens with the Ukrainian diaspora in Portugal. There are good and bad Ukrainians. It depends on where and what do you want. If you have a president of a Ukrainian association in Portugal that advocates that only he is a good Ukrainian and everywhere else, everybody else is pro-Russian and is a hybrid project of the Kremlin and don't help them, come to us. And this is absolutely disgusting. And this makes, of course, people, refugees, for example, coming to Portugal to doubt, who shall I trust? I mean, you are running away from war where you cannot trust anybody. You come to Portugal where you think you are safe, and suddenly you are in the haven of people of side A, side B. And this has to stop. This has to end. I think majority of the help Ukrainians need can start from within Ukraine. You, yourself, your country, your politicians, your leaders can start cleaning up the house. And these extremists that are everywhere are also creating difficulties. This is also one of the difficulties we have here in Portugal. And by doubt, people start thinking, maybe there's something. Okay, let's not help. Let's wait and see. This is the easy way. And that's why I always say it's always a choice. To help or not to help is a choice. You can choose if you want to help. I don't take it the wrong way. If you don't want to help, it's your choice. I mean, but the consequences are very, very important to be considered. And this is, for example, what Europe also and the European Union should be more objective, to tell the people not only what is important about money and weapons and this and that and geopolitical decisions, but what's the common people, the civilian society, what is the advantage or disadvantage of helping and of joining, uniting instead of separating and dividing. In Portugal, the Ukrainian diaspora is completely divided, completely divided. People don't speak to each other from the same city and they say, maybe there's something. So ridiculous, but it's human, you know, and we don't care. We just keep on doing what we think is right for the right reasons.
Thank you. And the second question, what do you think could be the end of this war? What kind of end you anticipate?
There are so many options. I think, first of all, we cannot plan. It will take long. It will take long. Maybe next year, end of the next year. It depends on so many things. If the Israel-Palestinian situation would not have happened like it has happened, things could get quicker or slower. We don't know. I don't know. I'm not a geopolitical specialist. What I think, to be honest, doesn't matter. What is needed today is what matters to me, what is needed tomorrow, and how can we relieve the suffering today and tomorrow. And if it works, great. If it doesn't work, at least we did something and tried. Discussing, this is, for example, a thematic which in social media I see a lot of people discussing. People are specialists about everything, you know, like when COVID came, everybody was a specialist. They knew numbers and statistics, everybody, from everybody. Then you war in Ukraine, everybody is a specialist. Then comes the crisis, everybody is a specialist. And when you see, when you look around in social media, because people have an audience, and you see everybody speaking too much and doing too little. And everybody is a specialist in the Palestinian-Israel issue and who is what and why and the history of, I mean, and nobody does anything. People just talk. And so I cannot answer what the future is. What is now is important, and today is important to help. and to keep people informed what is happening today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Miguel. I hope we didn't take too much of your valuable time, but it is extremely important for us as a group and for anyone who wants to view us, to connect and to use your experience as some kind of advice and template of what local communities can do. We have interviewed over this 600 days so many people who have very similar thoughts and initiatives. If I have one more question or two from the audience, we still have live people who haven't asked anything. I give you this opportunity before we conclude our.
I have time.
session
I
today.
don't have nowhere to go besides Ukraine, so I have time. Don't worry.
That's nicely said. Thank you. Please, we have few teachers and students from our university listening right now live,
Okay.
and some other friends still here. Well, Carol, please, Dr.
Hey.
Smith.
Thank you, Dr.
Hi.
Fett. Bless your heart. I've been quiet and listening in the background. I'm a professor of counseling here at Marshall, and I specialize in violence, loss, and trauma. And I was struck by the many times you said we were not emotionally prepared for what we encountered. And what keeps coming up in my own mind is how war brings out both the worst and the best in people. And it is clear that you reached into whatever resources you had to just maintain your courage and maintain your compassion and just keep pressing forward, that you understood the value that was driving you. And I think a lot of people lose sight of that, especially in the chaos and fog of war. And I think you're also right that people lose interest when things seem to be not moving. You know, we expect wars to be like football games, and that they're over. You know, they're over in two halves. You know, it's oh my gosh. One of the things I was also struck by is I logged in just a few seconds late. Portugal, Ukraine. Portugal, Ukraine. And I said, how far apart are these two countries? And I looked on Google and they're 41 hours apart by driving. That's each direction.
Yes.
So I just wanted to highlight that about the dedication and the connection and how love will move a mountain.
By car, because by truck it takes longer.
And I also thought, while you were saying, you know, it's a small thing to deal with the language barriers at the borders, but no, that's a massive thing, because when you can finally communicate in a way that everybody understands, that's amazing. And I was just thinking, you know, is there some technology guru out there who could help with a translator, you know, like they would use in Star Trek, you know, Google Translate, you know, you just speak your language and people automatically hear their language. I mean, can't we figure this out?
But it exists.
It
Hi,
does.
say hi, for example. Yeah. No, the problem is what I was speaking about. The little thing is what the institution, European Union, could do. I mean, it's easy on the macro view to decide we are going to help Ukraine, we are going to stand by Ukraine. Okay. Then come the macro decisions of how much money can we give to Ukraine? Billions, millions. Okay, let's give. And these are macro decisions. And what I was talking about is the micro decisions, from the smallest thing that is the universal access to communication. I give you an example. The first time I was in Ukraine, I didn't know about roaming costs. And when I came back, I had over 700 euros of roaming costs. And I didn't speak a lot on the phone, but it was enough to have a crazy telephone bill. And that's minimum wage almost here in Portugal. So for a couple of hours on the phone, or a couple of minutes, not even hours. And European Union decided, okay, let's stop roaming. Until today, nothing happened. It was just words. And let's help. They sent a committee that came to me to the border, and they said, what are the issues? What are the problems? What do you identify? I did reports to them. I said, this, and this, and this is wrong. This could be worked out, and it's easy. If you want, I translate it. And nothing happened. So when I go there, the trucks still have thousands of hours waiting, and when the truck enters Ukraine, unloading, wants to come back, has to wait 6 or 7 days to leave the country empty. This is absolutely unacceptable. So even for us, for example, a company, a transportation company, I asked them for a truck. I asked for sponsorship, and I'm not ashamed to ask, because it's not for me. You know, I go there every day. I call them 20, 30 times until they answer. Because my aim is helping and realizing and doing the things, and not just waiting and saying yes or no and then doing nothing. That decision-taking moment is very difficult for people to take a decision, and it starts with the small things. And this is what I wanted to tell you about the small things. And if we do the small things, then the middle things are easier, and then the big things are even easier.
I wish that you lived in the United States and would run for office.
Listen,
Bravo.
It's a decision that people take here to vote or not to vote. There are countries where you are obliged to vote. When I look at my country, it's not different than yours. I've been to the States many times. I've traveled around the world. I was a privileged person. I worked in an airline many years ago. So I had this advantage of knowing different societies, different mentalities. And I understand that we tend to look what others have and to criticize what we don't like in our own house. Let me tell you this. Portugal is the world champion on speaking bad about their own politicians. We are number one. We speak bad about everything. Everything is wrong. We don't agree with anything, but we are peaceful. We accept it. And at the end, everybody votes for the same again. And many people do not vote. So this is, it's almost like a joke, but it is, unfortunately, it is true. And the society accepts it here. We live in paradise, to be honest. I mean, we have a good weather, we have excellent food, we have excellent people. I would never choose another country over my country, because also my origins. We are proud. We are very, very proud to be Portuguese, but then we complain about everything. So it's not different. It's not different.
I was just struck by your value of walking the talk and not just words, And I pick up on your frustration with just words. And I was just noticing that right now in our political spectrum in the United States, a lot of it's just words. And well, this is just me on my soapbox. What is happening in Ukraine and in Israel right now are the forces that fight between good and evil, dark and light, freedom and oppression. And if the United States is not paying attention to these things, we're going to pay the price. All of us collectively are going to pay the price, whether we like it or not. The United States, we have a big responsibility on the world stage, whether we like it or not. And we need to be smart about what we're doing. And okay, I'll shut up about it, because I realize there are multiple perspectives.
Always, and that's the good thing, because with other perspectives, we learn also. I usually Somebody told me this sentence, I don't remember who, but nobody teaches anything to anyone. We just repeat our experience. And sometimes we have good experiences and we may be good teachers, and sometimes we have bad experience and we are bad teachers because we give a bad example. The main thing, in my personal opinion, I have a daughter, and she's 16 years old, and I try to be an example by doing, not telling. And sometimes I do mistakes. Many times I do mistakes, and I learn from them. I hope, I believe I learn from my mistakes. But sometimes I do it, I know it's a mistake, and I keep on doing it, and it's not easy. And when you get to politics, so many interests are combined. You have a perspective from the inside, we have the perspective from outside. It's always different. It's always different. And it depends on also the tradition and the culture and the education and the emotional intelligence that people have, and cultures are different in worldwide different. So what I think is important is this what we are trying to do is to get people together, to bring people closer. My dream is to build the biggest bridge in Europe from Portugal to Ukraine. This is my personal dream. Because I believe that when two different cultures, opposite countries can join together, they will squeeze the rest into, and we will have a better insight of what is going around us. And instead of dividing and looking at the differences. I mean, you see it also in medicine, looking at similarities helps. Looking at differences doesn't help. So I think that's it's good to be democratic and to have options and to have the possibility to choose.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Miguel, for your insights. And this was absolutely wonderful session and performance. John Sennett was joining us from Kiev. As some viewers know, we are glad to have him on the program, and also we hope to connect to Andrei Buzarov, who is a friend of both John and Miguel. So it helps to know people. The world gets smaller and smaller, and we are so proud to serve as a little connection and platform for this cause. I will conclude our session for today asking Dr. Katerina Shrey to give our customary greeting to Ukrainian viewers, please.
Дорогі браття і сестри в Україні, ми вдячні за наших благодійників в Португалії. Ми зберігаємо вас у наших щоденних думках і молитвах. Нехай милосердний Бог тримає вас у своїй опіці. До наступного тижня. Прощаємося.
Слава Україні!
Героям слава!
Героям слава!
God bless Ukraine. God bless America. Amcha Israel.
God bless Portugal.
And God bless Portugal. Thank you.